So the first thing I want to tell you about that I think is really important to lay out the structure of this argument is something about the relationship between perception and emotion and motivation. And this is actually pretty simple, but people don't know it. And I guess it's simple in the way that complex things are simple when you think them through for a very long time and understand them and then can finally lay them out, in some manner that's rather, let's say, clear, because you understand them. I derived a fair bit of this information from a book called The Neuropsychology of Anxiety by a man named Jeffrey Gray, who I think was one of the two greatest neuropsychologists of the 20th century, two or three. His Neuropsychology of Anxiety, which is on my list of recommended books, by the way, on my website, it's a really hard book. It took me like 6 months to read that book, and all of it was painful. And the reason for that was, books are interesting. Some aren't. Often I dog-ear the pages of books that I'm reading if I find a line or something, that I'd like to remember that I think is important. And, I have some books on my shelves that, pages are dog-eared double because there was a really amazing thought on one page and there was a really amazing thought on the other page, the facing page. And so the whole damn thing is just nothing but dog ears. And then there's other books where there's zero. When I read Nietzsche, for example, there was lots of dog ears on Beyond Good and Evil, which is a great book. And Nietzsche actually, he came up with the most arrogant statement anybody ever made about himself as an author, which is really quite impressive. To come up with the most arrogant statement, that's really something. And he was great at coming up with one-liners, philosophical one-liners. He said, I can write in a sentence what it takes other people a book to write. And then he said, that they can't even write in a book. So that's pretty good, eh? It's like arrogant, and then he topped it. It's like, yes, this is a man who could really write. Anyways, the problem with reading a book like that, Beyond Good and Evil, say, is that every damn sentence is a thought, and a deep thought. And so reading Beyond Good and Evil, it's like just constantly being punched. I mean, partly you're punched because you read part of it and you don't know what the hell he says, and so then you're stupid, and so that's a punch. And then now and then you stumble across something you understand, and it's like, it's hard on you. He said he philosophized with a hammer, that he was breaking things apart, and there's no doubt about that. So now and then you run across something you understand, and then that breaks you apart because you understand it, and it takes a long time to go through the book because you have to think about it, and God, that's not good, thinking about things. Well, it isn't, because, when you think about, you already know everything in some sense. You've got a map that covers the whole world, which is sort of why you can function. And so as long as everything's going fine, you don't really have to adjust your map, and you don't have to think. But then if you come across something that makes you think, then what that means is that part of the way you were thinking was wrong. And so when you think something, when you're forced to, then some little part of what you were, your map, the way you represent the world, it has to die because it was wrong. And then it has to be replaced by this new thing. And God only knows how much of what it was that was there has to die.